So, all right, this is a bit embarrassing, guys. Like, I don't normally get these kind of models out, but I kind of want to show you guys a little bit of like what we could do back then and stuff like that, right? So this is a model that I had created in 2000 and I think it was 2006, I believe, when I was like really learning 3D and the basics of sculpting back then. But yeah, you know, so that was like, what, that was like 15 years ago or so. So this is like the first body I have ever made and ever sculpted on inside of Zbrush. And it kind of looks like this. So I'm kind of showing this to you guys to show you guys that like we all kind of start somewhere, you know, like at the beginning, once we learn 3D, we learn sculpting. It's okay that, you know, like we sculpt things that maybe aren't all that great. Like it's a learning process, just like everything else. We simply have to learn to get better at things, right? And we all start at the bottom of the skill ladder, if you see what I mean, you know? So this is where I started. This is, I think actually some of this was, this is actually a bit of a hybrid of sculpting and 3D modeling, I believe. But the head was certainly sculpted inside of Zbrush. And I had started with a base body that I had sculpted, like there was a bit of back and forth there. But yeah, so this is essentially where my own skills were when I started learning 3D, right? It's a bit humbling to look at this now. It's like, yeah, I think I've improved a little bit since then, just a little bit. And back then I was actually quite proud of this. Yeah, so, you know, we all start somewhere. Like it's fine, you know, if the first sculptures that you do inside of ZBrush, you know, aren't Michelangelo pieces yet. It's fine. It's normal, in fact, you know. You simply start somewhere and then through practice you get better and better. But there is no one that is born with a stylus in their hand and is a master of ZBrush sculpting. That simply does not happen. We all have to learn and we all have to start with the basis there. Yeah, I was quite happy with this back then, but unfortunately it hasn't really held up through time. But yeah, so we could still do things like these in 2006. And then my own history is that then I went to school. I went to 3D school here in Montreal, 2007, which was a one-year program. So I graduated in 2008, and then I went to work in the industry. So this was before school, and then I did my school program, studied hard, worked really, really hard, and I graduated with this here. This is my final school project done in 2007. It's a bit better than what I've shown you before. You know, there's a few little upgrades here and there. It's a bit better. A lot of this was hand sculpted in ZBrush. So you can see that my skills had improved tremendously over the span of a few years there. And, you know, like that's kind of the story there. You know, it's like, you can see that like, you know, I don't think this character still holds up today. You know, there's a lot of things that I would improve on it, of course. But this was in 2007 that I had made this, right? And, you know, it kind of goes to show that 2007, like if you consider ZBrush back then, I think ZBrush 3 had barely come out. And I believe that, well, we finally had perspective and stuff like that, you know, but the tools were still relatively, they got a lot better, but they were still probably pretty primitive compared to some of the tools that we have inside of ZBrush today. You know, we certainly didn't have a lot of the advanced functions that are in the software right now, but we could still do some really kick-ass characters back in 2007. And, you know, they were very highly complex and highly detailed and stuff like that, right? So for me, this speaks to the power of really knowing the basics of the software really well. Because the basics haven't changed. Sculpting inside of Zbrush, although there has been a lot of new features added throughout the years and throughout the versions, and a lot of those are very nice and they're really, really useful, the fact remains that if you master the basics of Zbrush, you can do pretty much anything you want, you know? Like, truth be told, a lot of the features that they have added these past few versions, I just don't use them all that much. I just don't really use them because I simply know the core of Zbrush and the core works really, really well, and I'm already able to do anything I want with the more basic tools that Zbrush provides us, you know? And that's all I need, really, you know? So those new features that they add, they are useful, but at the same time, if we could do, you know, really great characters back in 2007, we can still do them now, simply by studying the basics, you know? So I guess for me, that speaks to the power of like not getting too stressed out or anxious about the fact that with every new version of Zbrush that comes out, there's always a whole bunch of tools that they add that are all really, really nice, you know? But at the same time, you could look at that and be like, start to stress because you feel as if, oh my God, there's so many new things that get added every time. And where am I going to start with this? There's just too much. I'm never going to learn this because there's just way too many features in here, you know? It's like, no, it's not true. It's like, you can actually disregard most of these new features that got released in the last few years. And you can still get away with sculpting like really, really awesome things, you know? So learning Zbrush isn't about learning all these little features that they add left and right. It's really about mastering the core. And once you master the core, and the core hasn't changed in a long time, you're actually like, you have the tools at your disposal to sculpt pretty much anything you want, you know? So if we could do characters like these in 2007, we can do characters like these today. So I hope that this kind of assuages perhaps a little bit your own fear, if you have some, about just the sheer daunting aspect of the mountain of features that Zbrush is now. By the way, guys, Pixologic, if you are listening to this, I'll take advantage to maybe ask you guys just a little favor. I would really love to see a version of Zbrush where you guys just do a pass where the new features that you guys reveal is improvements to tools that are already there in bug fixes, you know? Like there's a few things, let's say with the layers, you know, like the layer system in Zbrush. It's fantastic that it's there. I think this got added with Zbrush 3 if I remember correctly. I love the layers feature. I use that all the time on everything. But just the fact that you know, there's bugs in there that have been there since this feature got introduced, you know, that I think are really, really like, really problematic, you know, like if you have polypaint on something and you have a layer in record mode and you bake the layer that is in record mode while polypaint is active, I believe that you will like have a model that will wind up being completely black. You know, that's been a bug for 10 years, you know, it'd be nice to see that fixed. And I would so much love to see folders added for layers, because sometimes I wind up having so many of these that it's really hard to manage them. I would love to see folders where you can put a bunch of layers inside folders, just like you guys have done for subtools, really. It's fantastic for some tools that now we have folders for that. I'd love to see that added. Like, I would, like, I know this is probably too much to ask, but I would love to see like a release of Zbrush or like an update to Zbrush where the only thing that you guys sort of announce is just improvements to the tools that are already there or bug fixes, because I think that there's a lot of tools that you guys add that are very, very useful, but I always wish that were just taken just even further. You know, there's a lot of potential to a lot of these tools that I feel does not get developed enough. But that's a parentheses. Let's get back to Zbrush. So yeah, 2007. Now, why did I do this kind of very typical military dude back then? Well, I mean, you know, 2007 is pretty much what everyone did as far as demos are concerned. People who wanted to go in video games, it's like, oh, well, everyone's doing these space marines and stuff, so I guess I'll do one myself. And, you know, I wouldn't give someone the advice of still doing these things nowadays, but, you know, truth be told, this character got me in IDOS Montreal, so hey, I guess I did something right while I was working on it. But yeah, you know, like, it's actually funny because even back in 2007, I was already getting criticized, and people were like already criticizing people who would do Space Marines. Like, even in 2007, it was already a tired trope of character art to do a Space Marine of some kind. Things haven't changed since then. but it's kind of funny to know that even 15 years ago, that was already kind of something that people were already tired of seeing.